Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Contingency Plan Podcast. My name is Jedi Master David, and with me, as always, is Darth Austin.
Hello, everyone.
So, Darth, are we ready to rebrand the podcast and like the Two Brothers Drink Bourbon podcast of the bourbon podcast that we spent like 20 minutes on last week?
But I'm having a Mexican lager with lime.
Gross.
It's not very bourbony.
Sounds disgusting.
It is light.
Oh, man. Gonna be one of those days. Got it.
Yeah.
Who made it?
Great Lakes. Wow. Because I just didn't feel like stopping anywhere else, and it's the only thing that remotely looked decent.
Great Lakes, the Sam Adams of Ohio.
Yes.
Not to
It's not the worst thing ever, but it's definitely not my go-to.
Yeah, not to beat down Sam Adams. I actually have a lot of respect for Sam Adams. I mean, that guy was like the microbrew before microbrews, and now he's big brand, constantly just stuffing his nose down in glasses.
Pretty confident every Sam Adams beer is actually just the same thing with a different printed bottle.
Yeah, maybe.
But let's not become the snobby IPA podcast because we might lose people.
I drink more stouts than I do IPAs. So
it's even worse. Make it stop.
Ah, man, I like a good heavy, just big old dark beer. You know, it's just good. It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, gotta have that bowling ball in your gut, man.
Exactly. And, you know, we don't follow John Tapper's advice by, like, just chugging it in a glass, you know. You got to slow pour so it doesn't get the head all over the place, and we're not sticking napkins in it.
Explodes in your stomach. Yay.
Yeah, that's fun. That's the fun stuff. I did think that was kind of funny. And granted, when you are pouring from a tap, yeah, that is kind of what's going on, but who cares? John Tapper. I did enjoy that show, though.
It was a good show. It's a little different with a tap, though, because you're kind of like over pouring enough to just get rid of the head instead of just, I don't know. You still get some with that.
Yeah, you sure do lose a little bit. That much is for sure.
Now, we had talked about there are little machines that can actually produce enough or add CO2 to make it essentially a draft beer. And that's something I definitely want to look into.
Well, I saw one on an old episode of Shark Tank where it's not adding CO2. It's basically like pressurizing the beer through the tube. So it's not really adding anything to it. It's just more of a pressurizing method. God, what the heck was that? I probably have it saved on a list somewhere because I think it's cool. It's not cheap. I'll say that
cheaper
much.
Just to buy a keg.
I don't
know. Find a keg of something you actually like that isn't. You know, honestly, I feel like most kegs that aren't domestic beer probably are pretty expensive. Just for shipping.
God, it's been so long. Physics, Fizzics is what it's called. So it's $164 on Amazon. So it's not cheap.
Not the same as like a Soda Stream, I guess, if you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, you put a can or a bottle or a tall boy or whatever in the thing and it shoots it out. And apparently it's, been pretty highly rated as like a, kind of tasting like a draft. So I don't know, might be something down the road. I think it's kind of fun. There are some knockoffs of it now, which, of course everything gets knocked off nowadays. So
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so we're actually here to talk about Star Wars.
Believe it or not,
the war in the stars. We are going over season 3, episode 6, chapter 22, Guns for Hire, or otherwise known as the worst Star Wars Mandalorian episode ever. So
a lot of people have said. A lot of people have spoken.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we'll talk about it. It's it's certainly a ride, and yeah, I think people are, the criticality of the episode. I do understand some of it, so it's not without some merit. But if I don't know, if I'm not just trying to be like a hypercritical, B word, it could have been worse.
Well, I kind of went into it expecting a lot worse because obviously I'm a bit behind in the show and
Yeah.
spoilers and everything, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I mean, this got like a ridiculous amount of coverage for some reason. I don't know why, but like everybody wanted to talk about this, like even to the point where every once in a while I'll watch the Daily Wire and like Matt Walsh was talking about it. Like Star Wars has gone even woker, which I don't see.
Wow. All right, conservative Darth. Jeez, man.
But like I don't see the huge critiques that are happening to this episode. Like it wasn't amazing. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the episode, I just didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll also have to talk about your choice in YouTube television because we gotta bring you. Maybe you can watch some Trevor Noah. Balance it out. Maybe some Jon Stewart
I like
or
Trevor
something.
Noah. I like Trevor Noah.
No, you're only supposed to like
Trevor
one
Noah.
thing or another. Okay, you can't like
That's
both.
not how I work. No, I'm very central when it comes to that stuff.
Trevor Noah does have the capacity.
I haven't watched
to be
Trevor
funny.
Noah for a while, though. Honestly, it has been a long time. It's been years. Honestly, he took over Daily Show a long time ago now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I remember when Daily Show and the Colbert Report were like, those were big.
The neck and neck ones.
Yeah, those were big things to watch for a long time. And I mean, we always knew it was satire and stuff, and we kind of knew that, it was leaning a certain way and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the way the world works, you can't like one or the other. You can't be fans of this, that, or the other, and blah blah blah. And
that's one thing that always annoys me with like any media that I guess that's the one downside to enjoying listening to both sides of the argument. I get to hear them just rip apart the other thing that I also like. Because like most people on the right obviously hate Jon Stewart with a passion.
It depends.
And I grew up liking Jon Stewart, and I don't really see, why everyone's so critical of each other like that. I mean,
well,
it's all ultimately a different form of comedy.
Right. Well, they're only they can like somebody once, but as soon as they say something contrary, and it goes for both sides, it's like a feeding frenzy. There was something about Garth Brooks, lately. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, I think basically he was just like, supporting like diversity and stuff like that, which is fine. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of diversity around. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But he's supposed to be the country singer. Oh, he got friends in low places. I guess those friends aren't in so much low places anymore. But like, I mean, if you listen to his music, he wasn't really country either. He was basically the birth of bro country, of like the people like Jason Aldean and Luke Bryan and who are the popular ones now? Morgan Wallen, is that one of them?
Yeah, Morgan Wallen, Combs, and
Luke Combs. Yeah, I mean, I can't listen to that anymore. It's annoying. To me, it's annoying because it just doesn't mean anything. But the more celebrities talk, the more you should just stop listening to.
Well, and I mean, I think the most important thing to do is to take a step back and analyze someone's comment without being so offended by it instantaneously, which is something everyone's very bad at anymore.
Well, and everybody says
something so personally, like you're being attacked.
Well, and everybody says live and let live until you trod on something that they believe in.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny. Like even today at the lunch table, there was this discussion brought up about hunting out of the blue, and majority of the people there do like the topic was deer meat, and there was one person who is she just in general does not like meat, the taste of meat. She's a vegetarian by principle, that I just don't enjoy the taste of meat.
Yeah.
But she got to talking about like the morality of it. She's like, well, for me personally, morally, I couldn't imagine like killing an animal just to eat it. And just for a split second, you could see like everybody in the room kind of get offended.
Yep.
And even for a second, I'm like, well, there's no real, in my opinion, morality towards it, because if you're going to buy something from the store, you've effectively killed the animal versus killing it in person.
You could also bring up the farmer stuff about, growing any sort of plant matter, no matter what it is.
So many critters in the process of that.
Exactly.
You slaughter rabbits and all kinds
snakes
of stuff.
and moles and groundhog, stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, I've seen combines run over deer, unintentionally, of course, but it does happen.
But it happens. Yeah. Well, and then there's the intentional poisoning too to keep the crops alive.
Yeah. Organic doesn't necessarily mean organic.
There's no morality with food, ultimately. But for a split second, you think that way, and then you gotta take the step back and be like, you know what? This doesn't affect my life. Like, if I didn't have this conversation, or if I did, my life is not changed. And just because they lived a different life and they have a different perspective does not mean that they're evil and all that.
No.
I think that's one thing that people need to shut up long enough to get to that idea.
Now you're starting to sound an awful lot like a middle-of-the-road moderate, like you just can't pick a side.
Like one of them libertarian bastards.
Yeah, no, it is interesting how that happens. I mean, I've known, vegetarians and vegans for a multitude of different reasons. And like, there are some people that do really well on like carnivore diets. And then there are people that do really well on vegan diets. And, I tried that. Ashley wanted me, because she had already had it, but she wanted me to try that Impossible meat. So we bought a pound of that at the store. It's not cheap, but we bought some of that and I grilled it up and I ate it. And I was like, not like a burger. It's not bad, but it's not like a burger. But the sodium content and all that stuff is just,
sure.
It's pretty bad. Honestly, it's not great for you.
Yeah, I mean, like with the carnivore thing too, I had listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson's stuff on that, and his daughter Michaela's, and their testimony to how much that practically saved them. They were just allergic to everything known to man other than meat and salt, essentially.
Yeah, she had like an autoimmune disease that was really, and then with him, I mean, he he made the classic mistake of going on what is it, that benzodiazepine or diazepam or whatever. It's like anxiety meds, I think. And of course, I mean, opiates are never, I'm sorry, but opiates are just not good. But then on the flip side of that, some people do okay with them and some people don't. Some people's pain threshold's different. Some people need something for their anxiety because it's just so high. But yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag there for sure. But yeah, I actually just got done making some venison pot pies.
And that's awesome.
Oh, it's great.
They're hard to beat.
No, it is. And granted, I mean, I don't eat a ton of red meat on the regular. I substitute out a lot of ground beef with ground turkey a lot.
Yeah, I do lean pork and turkey and whatnot quite a bit. Chicken's a mainstay for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when we can find a good source of chicken, obviously.
Well, you go look in the store and like I've started to see what is it, like 75-25?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
becoming pretty popular.
Why in the hell would you want to eat 75-25, man? I mean, it's because it's cheaper.
Eat turkey at that point.
Well,
even before then, really.
Turkey depends because the 75-25 is coming out because it's cheaper and because of inflation, and the cost of meat's gone so far up. Like whereas we were, we were paying $2.99, $3.99 for a pound of ground beef, 80-20 or whatever as a baseline, and even with that, I would still stick to like 90-10 if I could, that's usually what I prefer in ground beef.
Yep.
But it's just the cheap alternative to try and stretch it because we're not tackling inflation well enough and the supply. I don't believe in the supply chain BS. I think we've got a hell of a problem employing truckers because we treat truckers like garbage and gasoline prices and stuff.
Realistically, that is one of the most important careers to push people towards.
It's
and
one of them.
To promote.
It's one of them because we need it.
That's up there with all trades, really. Electricians, plumbers, things to take care of people's homes and infrastructure. And what's bigger to infrastructure than what transports everything around? I mean,
transportation's huge.
Yeah, and that should be one of the most. I think that would be up there with you should respect that trade as much as you would doctors, in my opinion, because it is that essential.
Well, they make the world run. But yeah, I mean, I've heard horror stories of trucking companies, especially like small to mid-sized trucking companies, like not really being able to pay their drivers and going, you know, there was one story I heard a little while ago where basically this guy and his little crew got screwed out of six figures because the trucking company
like basically $500,000 and they closed down or something.
Yeah, so and that just screws over the truckers. So yeah, it's a lot, obviously, but no, I mean I stick to what I stick to. But you're right, it is kind of tough to just even get the quality. I mean, I smoked a pork shoulder this past weekend, and even with that kind of stuff, you actually have to look at those roasts. You got to look at those cuts and make sure that there's not just like a tremendous fat cap on it. And,
and pork shoulder is one of the ones you can typically go extremely cheap with and be okay. I've found, but you definitely have to look at it.
You got to look at it. You got to look at it.
Too much fat, believe it or not.
Well, and under that fat might just be more fat. It might not be more meat, So you got to be careful.
It's a 20-pound roast. You might get like 7 pounds of meat out of it.
Exactly.
Have fun processing it after it's cooked.
Yep. It sucks, but yeah, I mean that shoulder turned out really, really good. Yeah.
It's funny. We're kind of getting to the point where like a steak dinner out to eat it's becoming very close to buying a couple of steaks and making your own food right now. I mean, I was looking at Kroger the other day just for a couple of steaks for Father's Day, and my God, like a 10-ounce New York strip that is not aged at all, no real marbling, is like $15.
Yeah, it's not cheap anymore. And back home, we used to go to a small, kind of like butcher shop that would run weekly steak deals, and you could get a strip for $4.99 and a sirloin for $3.99. And again, this is years ago. It's not really been recent, but
this isn't pre-COVID or anything. This is like when we were kids.
Well, I mean, it had risen there for a while, but yeah, I mean, definitely before COVID, it was starting to creep up as well. But yeah, it's interesting. And then all this stuff, it has a chain effect. You know what I mean? And restaurants have to charge more, which makes restaurant eating more inaccessible to everyday people. And then
it affects the waitresses too, because just because the price goes up does not mean that percentage for the tip necessarily will go up with certain people.
And that's the other problem too, is that it's not that people are cheap necessarily, but when you
practical,
for like two people, if you're going in there spending $50-$60, then you're like, oh well, that's a hefty dinner sometimes, you know what I mean? So I
think like me personally, if I'm going to go out to eat, I pre-bake in that I'm going to do that, because I do believe in tipping service. I don't believe in tipping as a practice, but that's what we have as a society, so I'm not going to be a part of the problem.
Well, I mean, there are ways around that, but like, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to push those budgets, because like food costs, it gets up there, and you got to think about like percentage of work and so forth. Like I worked in the restaurants for a decade. I know what the restaurants look like. I know how lazy people are. And, I've bartended, I've served, I've cooked, I've done all of it. And, it's tough. It's a tough business to be in, and you know, the majority of new restaurants close within the first year. It used to be like 50%, but I'm sure it's higher than that now. And it's difficult. It's definitely difficult. But
yeah, looking back, I am kind of glad I didn't get into culinary. I think it would have ruined the passion of cooking for me because there's really not a lot of. I mean, you could obviously you're gonna be able to speak on this more than me, but there's not a lot of appreciation for a good chef.
It depends. It depends on where you're at. But like if you're working at like a small mom and pop, you know, in a small town or whatever, if you place out a good dinner, people will continue to come back. But you know, it becomes when you start trying to cut costs and you get lower quality food, and lower quality food, it doesn't matter how much you season it or cook it well or whatever, it still remains low quality food.
Yeah.
You can only put so much of a spin on it. So yeah, it's difficult. I mean, hell, I think one of the things that started to alarm me a bit was when breakfast started going up so high. When you're paying, you know, 10, 11 bucks for a breakfast.
Bucks, you know, that's crazy. $10 would have gotten you like 2 eggs, hash browns, and a country fried steak or a good sirloin maybe 5 years ago. And that's like, nope, you get an omelet now.
Well, it used to be $10 was two, you know, as a lot of around where we're at, blue plate specials, but you know, which were your 2 eggs, hash browns, choice of meat, toast, you know, for like $5.99. That was breakfast, and that was 2 people's breakfast. And then if you went, you know, up into the $8 range, that's when you could start chucking in like a, you know, a country fried steak, or, you know, just a chopped sirloin on a grill, your griddled sirloin, or like,
big,
you know,
nice
biscuits.
Ham steak or something.
Yeah. Big old piece of ham, or, you know, when you're getting up into some of the other meats. But it's not cheap to just eat breakfast out. And I mean, I personally love a diner breakfast. Yeah,
it's an experience you don't really get from waking up and cooking your own food. No. More so than to me, like a nice date night dinner, I like cooking that. Yeah. Breakfast, I like going out.
Yeah, absolutely. But yep, that's the world in which we live in. It's an odd thing. But anyway, so let's just go ahead and throw this in here. How was your week?
Wonderful. Dealing with bronchitis. Allergies turn to bronchitis, and it's been like 2-3 weeks now. So
yep.
But other than that, not too bad. Got spoiled for Father's Day. Found out a little early. Got a new sit and stand desk, a new boom arm, so I'm not leaning over after today recording.
Fun.
Quad monitor for an excuse to buy 2 more monitors. Yeah, or quad monitor stand. I mean, so got some new toys to play with.
Goodness.
But no, pretty good week so far. Just very short week. I'm off early Friday for the Father's Day weekend. Spend some time with Dad. We're looking forward to a nice, ridiculous amount of beef on Saturday. Of course, after just talking about the price of beef, it's a deal. It's a deal. All you can eat.
Yeah, more than beef. They do. So we're going to take our dad to a Brazilian steakhouse, and it's more than that. I mean, you know, obviously, yeah, you got your beef cuts, but you got your chicken, you got your pork, lamb, all of it.
I'll be taking advantage of the lamb because lamb is the one thing that's very difficult to find around here.
Yeah, I like lamb. I like lamb in a few different ways. I mean, but yeah, lamb's always good. So yeah, no, that should be good. So yeah, so you got goodies. That's fun. Yeah, I was sick last weekend, or was it last weekend? No, sort of the weekend before that, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it. So that wasn't all that fun. Last weekend was, largely trying to get fence stuff up, which is not done yet.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't help you with that again.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. It's not a biggie. We got all the posts set, but like, cool. God, it was it was a
hot one too for that.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. It wasn't too bad though. But like, the ground is just, it's so hard, and we kept running into like, rocks, big rocks.
Plus, we haven't had rain for like 3 weeks at that point, so you had no help whatsoever.
Yeah, it had been pretty tough. There were a couple of holes that that were just a little not as deep as we would have preferred, but and then some of the measurement got a little off. I guess I didn't really think about this as I was measuring it out, but like the way when we used to do all this stuff is you never drilled directly on the marker line. You always drilled left or right, depending on which side you're on.
Yeah.
And and that was not how the guy running the auger understood that. So
you rented an auger for it. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it was so just Ashley's nephew, he had one.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
But yeah, so we have a couple of places where we're gonna have to chop some slats off and make it fit and type of deal, and then blah blah blah. So it's not terrible, but I mean we got to the point where we were concreting, and he said he had a concrete paddle attachment for a drill. He didn't. He had a paint mixing attachment for a drill. So that didn't work. I wound up having to run down to the Home Depot and renting a mixer. A little mixer. It wasn't that bad. But the guy at the counter, and by this time I really wasn't interested in anything, but the guy was like, well, I mean, you could just like pour it down in the hole and add a little water.
Uh-huh.
And it's like,
not mix it.
Well, I'm getting there. It's like, you really want a mixer? It's like, and something, finally it's just like, I was like, why in the hell would I not want a mixer? Anyway, he wound up getting to the end of this, and basically, they were using red bag quickcrete, which you can throw in the hole and add water to it, and it sets very quickly. But that's not what we had. We had the regular yellow bag quickcrete, and it's like, no, you gotta mix that stuff. You can't just throw it in a hole. So, but anyway,
plus if you don't over dig your hole, how are you going to get a tool in there to actually mix it up?
Exactly. So it was whatever. But anyway, we got all the posts set and everything's sturdy, and this weekend we're planning on trying to. Probably a little bit tomorrow as well, but mainly the rest of the weekend, trying to put the panels up and get the rest of the fence done, hopefully. So we'll kind of see how that works out. But yeah, that's the plan for now.
Cool. Very awesome.
But yeah, aside from that, not too much. Just general work and all that good sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think I have hit that age. You can make fun of me for it, where I'm just really into getting into golf. So I think I'm going to try and do that this weekend. Well, not this weekend, maybe Thursday. So,
wow. No, actually, I kind of thought about that recently too, because I got rid of my crappy set of clubs a while ago, and I kind of thought about like, it would be kind of nice at least go to a driving range. It'd be nice to have a set of clubs, maybe to go out every once in a while. It's been so long. I wasn't ever very good at it in the beginning, and I'm sure as hell not going to be good at it now. But
I have no interest in being good at it. I'll gladly be that guy who's the last one to tee up, no one behind me to watch me, and I'm just living my best life in my 9 holes. Drinking beer and sucking.
Yeah.
I don't care. I really don't.
Well, maybe we can go out and do that sometime. That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
So, other thing that we did, we finally cracked into a bottle of Eagle Rare and the bottle of one of the bottles of Blanton's, and
which is your favorite.
So this was the interesting thing. So, we tried Blanton's down at Buffalo Trace, and that one that we had tried was very even keel. It really was. It wasn't really bitey. It wasn't crazy. It was good, but it wasn't like all the things you kind of expect. We cracked the Eagle Rare first, and I was like, "Ooh, that's real good." That got a little bit of burn, going on. It was nice. Popped that bottle of Blanton's, is like, wow, that's a lot different. And of course, I mean, I knew that because they're single barrel, so it could just be the barrel. everyone could potentially be different unless you get one from a couple from the same barrel. So yeah, that was kind of nice. I know you had already cracked into yours as well.
Yeah, I tried a couple drinks of each. They're pretty good. I haven't tried mixing them, making an old fashioned or anything like that.
Sure.
So, definitely looking forward to that. But the Eagle Rare was pretty impressive. I was happy with both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a little list going, and I've been thinking about building a little basement bar, something that I can kind of take down and take with me when we leave this place. But at least something to have. But I'm serious. Maybe at some point we do a little bourbony stuff. I could get down with that.
Hey, I'm up for it. I'll build one too, and we can go back and forth.
There we go.
Do one a month or whatever. I don't care. Get Dad in as a co-host or something, or as a guest star.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We both have people in our lives that we could bring in as interesting guests. So
yeah, I mean, I watch a couple of YouTube channels that talk about it, and everybody has their preferences. I don't necessarily know what my preference is yet because I really haven't engaged in a ton of that. But yeah, maybe one day we'll have to do a little hunting. We'll go around to a couple places and check some stuff out because stuff is out there.
Yeah,
the truth.
And
is
I'll tell you,
there.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's because I can't because of the bronchitis or just the amount of. I just lost the name of it. We had talked about his YouTube channel last week. The old cowboy, the Wrangler school guy.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. The sheer amount of videos I've been listening to from him, where he has to start every video with a cigar review. But I have been craving some nice cigars lately, and I'm definitely going to go on a tangent here soon and start buying a ridiculous amount and just getting ready to start reviewing them or something. I don't know.
Hey, we could put that in there too. But yeah, I
feel like they go hand in hand for sure.
They do. I mean, I've always kind of enjoyed the Perdomo Habanos or whatever those are. Those are pretty good. Those are one of my favorites. But I mean, we did try the Buffalo Trace cigars.
Yeah,
we did that. They weren't bad. They weren't bad. No, they were a little overpriced for what they were, but they weren't bad.
Yep, for sure. So, yeah, I think they were like $12 or something like that.
I mean, we got one of the more ridiculous ones, not like the standard deals. I don't remember what was special about them. They were named something.
It was a bourbon barrel aged, which doesn't make sense. We're not keeping them in the barrels, but okay.
Maybe they did. Maybe they aged the tobacco in the barrels.
We could have just gotten any cigar and then dipped it in the Eagle Rare and been fine.
That's true. That is true.
Well, anyway, do you think at this point we should probably, what are we at, 20 minutes in? 25 minutes in,
more.
2 hours in? Maybe talk a bit Star Wars. I'm very unprepared, and I don't really want to talk about it too much, but we did have a showcase of Star Wars Outlaws. Only looked at a little bit of the trailers, so maybe we'll save the discussion for next week, but it does look pretty intriguing. Throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, our problem is we're so far behind on everything.
Yeah, that Jedi Survivor, still haven't.
More than that, I mean, we've got a lot.
Yeah, Visions too, and we've got books galore and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot, but anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get into the episode. So, I've heard this episode described as like a detective novel or some little blah 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 like that, and we're getting back to more of the bounty hunting thing that we sort of saw in the beginning of Mando, and instead of Mando really popping contracts, we have old what is it? Axe something. Shoot, what was his name?
Yeah.
I had Axe Wolves and Cosca Reeves going out here trying to rescue a Moncal from the evil Corins, but wait, they're in love.
Well, one is.
They're in love, man.
I just love how many times he had to just say, "I don't care, I love you. I don't care, I love you."
Yeah.
Do you get the feeling that Mon Cal was like super underaged.
Yeah, sort of did feel a little bit like
It's
that.
A little creepy. Little creepy.
Yeah, like a bit of a boy, compared to a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with skipping past that. It is what it is, They rescue the prince and away we go.
And then we proceed to the episode that is solely about Bo-Katan and nothing but Bo-Katan, which is awesome.
Well, I mean, the thing is like I even said this I think last week, where we're definitely like setting this up more as a Bo-centric story, and with Mando as sort of a supporting character. I'm not really sure if that's the way it needed to go, but last season,
I was just about to say last season, we already talked about this. He was very, very much a background character. I think they're kind of, I don't have a problem with it, but let's not forget about Mando here.
well, yeah, true. I think we said this last season. This has become a vessel for other things, and you could just make it Mando, but we're trying to engage in much larger stuff. I mean, we had what was it, the convert, I think it was called, with the doctor, and the majority of that was not Mando at all. It was just a beginning and an end, and then the major story was away from Mando in its entirety.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing this rehabilitation concept.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it is what it is. But so anyway, we are going to the planet Plazer 15, where we meet the Duchess and Captain Bombardier, or otherwise known as Jack Black and Lizzo.
Yeah. Jack Fat Black.
Yeah, I don't. One of the comments that I've heard is that the two of them were so distracting from the story that it became like a little bit more cringy than it had to be. And
it did.
While I think I said this maybe last week too, I'm a little done with Jack Black in general, just because
I am as well.
It's a little try-hardy.
He is. But I'll tell you what, pleasantly surprised, I kind of like Lizzo in this.
Well, I mean, Lizzo's a very talented musician. She's a great singer. Whoever's producing her stuff knows what they're doing. But, she wasn't bad. She played it pretty straight, I would say. Whereas, Jack Black kind of feels like a guy who's on like an off-Broadway thing, who's just like really trying to hit the mark a little too hard,
Yeah. As far as Lizzo goes, I think that like the character that they portrayed with her works in Star Wars.
Sure.
Maybe a little more childish than what we needed with Mando. I think there's a place for the character for sure. I didn't have a problem with it. I don't know if Jack Black's the whole reason I have a problem with the other character, but he's just kind of not needed, in my opinion. It could have just been Lizzo, and I think it kind of would have been better, personally.
Right. Another thing I actually started to hear a little bit about, which I don't necessarily agree with, people are starting to turn against that set piece, that what is it? The sets, the dome sets that they came up with for this, that now everybody's using, because it's actually really good for not having giant sets. You can create a lot more in a smaller space. I don't know. I mean, like I've seen people start to turn away from that. As like, what are you talking about, man? Like I still think it looks good.
Yeah, I had no problem with the set piece. I thought it was pretty extravagant. It was well done, but the shape of it didn't matter to me. Yeah. Maybe I just don't pay that much attention. I don't know.
Yeah, I know a lot of other movies and whatevers have gone to using this particular deal. I mean, you got to give it. I mean, Disney does innovate, or whoever you want to call this, if you really want to give credit to like Lucasfilm or not, but either way, it is innovation. So anyway, the whole reason why we even came to this planet was to connect with the other Mandalorians. And we're trying to bring everybody into the fold, but before we can do that, we have to do a fetch quest for the Duchess and the Captain.
Yeah. That's the only thing that was annoying. Like, I like the fetch quest, but the whole reason we had to do it, I felt was a little too forced.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. But basically their problem is that their droids are starting to act up. And they have basically
not just any droids.
No, they've got old
B2s.
Yeah, B2s. I can't remember names of every single droid, but a lot of the battle droids that we would have seen during the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. And all of this is controlled from a control center. And oh, by the way, Christopher Lloyd's here.
Christopher freaking Lloyd.
Old Doc. Doc's running the show. Another thing I do want to point out, though, this episode was incredibly predictable.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Like, it didn't... that's kind of where it lacked a little bit for me, is that it was very predictable, like, this whole... what was going on with them. But, anyway, so the droids are malfunctioning. Lizzo's got this, like, holographic flowery cape thing that doesn't attach to her, and she's holding Grogu throughout the entire
flamingo
thing.
Decoration.
Yeah, I mean, very colorful. Like, everything in this whole planet is very, very colorful and everything. And I guess we should also mention that the Captain Bombardier was an Imperial, former Imperial, who
because of this interest. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just say because of this, the New Republic does not allow them to have a standing military force because of his role in the politics here. So that's kind of why we have our droids. In a way, they are both. I mean, some are set to protect, but mainly they're a workforce.
Yep.
But this is also why we have to conscript the Mandalorians to do this, because they essentially can't do anything themselves.
Yeah, very true. And we almost sort of have a Wall-E type effect going on here as well. Because
no one does anything.
Yeah, nobody really does anything. They rely on the droids to pretty much do everything for them. And so this is it's a big problem for the citizens here if their droids are gonna, start going haywire. And we see some footage of, droids freaking out, not really hurting anybody, but just doing some destructive stuff.
Yeah, very kid-friendly stuff.
Yeah. Then we run into some of our old friends. Well, we had one friend. Yeah. Our Ugnaughts.
Good old Ugnaught Qui? Is it Qui?
Yeah, something like that. Qui or Quill or something. Quill. Or something like you. Quill. But so we run into a few more of their race here, and this is they're trying to get information, and of course, like, they're not being very helpful. Bo doesn't really know how to talk to them, but Mando does, because he knows.
Yeah, and he has spoken.
Yeah, I did think this was kind of nice, because it does give.
I liked it.
It gives Mando a little bit of like a reason to be here.
Yeah, and the shout out to Quill is pretty awesome. Quill was a very good character in the first season, so
agreed.
Nice to see that he was as well respected amongst his people as he was. Just dropping his name basically got them the in on this.
Yep.
So
absolutely. So kind of move on to a shipping yard where Mando identifies one of the battle droids that's gone haywire.
Yes, by simply kicking them.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, like, he does this whole thing where he trusts droids, but then all of a sudden he doesn't trust droids again. And granted, these B2s
would be the best thing for him to not trust, seeing as what's happened to him in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, which is completely fair. But the sort of dichotomy of constantly going back over this over and over again is kind of interesting. But we are eventually able to take down the droid, and what was it? They were scanning its oil or its coolant or something like that, which brings a droid bar.
Yeah, Yeah, they found like essentially nanobots.
Yeah.
In the oil, which was controlling them.
Yeah, which
I feel like it's a really convoluted way to explain how something that technologically advanced was controlled. Like, I don't know. I didn't understand why they had to go that route, but whatever.
It just seems like that might have been the route they went to reprogram the droids to do what they were supposed to do, kind of deal.
Better way to hide your trail, I guess.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about the bar is we get to talking to these droids, and they're actually like wanting resolution, because like, we don't want to do this, like, we don't want to go haywire, we want to be here and do our droid stuff and go to droid bar. So
just pushing towards droids being real people.
Right.
It's what we're doing with Disney.
Yeah. Well, I mean, droids have their own sort of weird level of sentience and so forth, which is interesting. But we really do kind of move right along onto this, and we go into the CSI autopsy room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an
Shame we didn't have
interesting
Piper,
twist.
but it's okay. It's okay.
Oh God. Yeah, so we take a look at the coding, and we're starting to understand that it was Christopher Lloyd's character that's doing this.
Yes, because for some reason he left his chain code.
Yeah, not very smart. The only thing about this is that he was a separatist, so he actually supported Count Dooku. And the reference to Dooku here was actually kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there were people out there that really did believe in what Count Dooku was doing. They didn't understand the higher motivation of it or who was actually pulling the strings, but they saw Count Dooku, who was royalty effectively for his planet. And, he was trying to bring down this bloated republic. So there are people that are going to identify with that because they also saw the corruption in the Republic.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if this character was from Dooku's homeworld. I know they mentioned a little bit later that he had served this family for a long time, but it'd be kind of cool if he was from Dooku's homeworld.
Yeah,
a little extra tie-in. Sure,
I didn't quite get that implication, but it would be kind of cool if that were the case. Anyway, we do bring him in front of the Duchess and the Captain. We get more of Jack Black's overacting.
Yes, and a stupid game.
Oh yeah, the croquet, the space croquet that Grogu helps cheat with.
Bugs.
Yeah. Now, Lloyd's character does have some loyalty to the Duchess. He clearly doesn't like the Captain. Which is understandable.
Always knew that he hated him.
Yeah. But, in the Duchess's sort of defense here, she doesn't really want him to just go away or be killed or anything like that. He's like, you kind of have to earn some forgiveness here. Like, you got to work your way back up. Which is interesting. Because it seems like Lloyd's character was mainly just trying to, like, end... Or get people to rely on themselves a little bit more and not just rely on droids. It seemed more like you're
and like, again, going the Wally route, like, he seemed like the voice of reason.
Yeah. And he did. So, like, really wasn't much of, like, a punishment there, which, to be fair, isn't actually all that bad. Because, like, when you're over-reliant on anything, you can run into the folly of losing it, so...
Yeah, if nothing else, he was kind of teaching everyone a lesson, but it was completely ignored in this scene.
True.
Again, very small child Disney resolution here, which is fine. That's the route we were going with this episode. Kind of weird how we get our shift later on.
Yeah,
but meh.
Well, it's fairy tale stuff, It is childlike, and we even get the knighting of Grogu.
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
Not a lot of people like that, though. Personally, I don't really care.
Grogu getting a bunch of little medals.
Yeah.
Like it's an RPG and he's just going around collecting things and making friends with everybody and allies. So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, I didn't mind it at all either. So after this, we get into our confrontation with old Wolf here. I just keep wanting to call him Dick Wolf, like the producer of what did Dick Wolf produce? Maybe it was CSI or one of those sitcom shows. Or was it Law and Order? I don't know. Let me look him up. What did old Dick Wolf do? Law and Order. Yeah, a lot of stuff, but mainly Law and Order. I always just thought it was funny. That's one of those things where it's like, maybe you should be Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so we get our encounter, and what I actually think was a pretty tight choreographed fight between Bo-Katan and Wolf here. I actually thought this was pretty cool.
I was worried right at the beginning that it was going to be a little janky.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I liked it. I liked everything about it.
Well, there was a lot of showcasing of the Mandalorian weapons and, the jetpacks and the shields and all this stuff and the knives. But, there was also a lot of there was some feinting. Like they weren't just trying to throw haymakers. There was some actual true fight choreography. There was one part as I'm watching it here where Wolf kind of feints up with his hands and he kicks her in the midsection. So, kind of feigning up to go low.
Yep.
And, we see all the classic stuff. We see Little Rocket, we see the flamethrower, we see, the kind of grappling rope type of deal. And it was all there. And I thought it was pretty cool. But of course, Bo does come out on top, as, you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
And we get sort of the reuniting of this Mandalorian faction, which was hers, but she had lost.
Yes, if only she had the Darksaber, though.
Yeah.
Then she could truly unite everybody.
Yeah, this was this was interesting how they played this off, because the whole deal was, once reception for Bo started going up, it became fairly evident that, to me at least, that Din Djarin would not rule Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's the right decision or not, I'm not sure.
I don't know if he was ever necessarily set up to be a character to rule.
Yeah.
Personally. Whether that was by design or just kind of how the cards fell, I don't know. But that being said, I feel as though they've kind of neutered him a bit in the pursuit of making Bo look more badass, because
True.
I'm not sure if I like how they did what they did in this episode.
So basically, because Bo had rescued him, he was disarmed by not General Grievous, and Bo defeated that foe and effectively reunited him, Din Djarin, with the Darksaber. So by that logic, she had bested the foe that bested him, which means he gets it. It's kind of Harry Potter logic when you think about it. Well, how did that go? It's like Snape might have killed Dumbledore, but it was actually me who disarmed Malfoy, so I own the wand, not you, Voldemort.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's fitting. They're trying to make him kind of similar now, but I don't know. I feel like it was a slap to Mando, because it couldn't even been that he found a way to concede in a duel without dying to Bo. Right. It's just no, we're going to put him on the third tier, and there's this person in between them that technically deserves the Darksaber even before Mando.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, but it is a good workaround to where there's no conflict, I suppose.
Yeah.
Definitely seems shoehorned in, though.
A little bit. But it definitely seemed fairly evident that they wanted Bo to continue on and run Mandalore again. So that makes some sense, I guess, but they might have went about it in a different way. I'm not terribly unhappy about it, but
I just
it's
don't.
not what it is.
My thing is like, so if any true Mandalore was like, say, in a battle, and he's with a posse of Mandalorians, and like some random creature is about to kill him, and one of the Mandalorians saves him, by logic, do they become the new Mandalore now? Like, is this how the system works?
Who knows? Who honestly knows? I fair point. I don't know.
Although I do think it would have been funny if like old Dick Wolf would have been like, I don't know. Ask the armorer. Don't make these decisions.
Boy, yeah. But anyway, we end the episode with Bo with the Darksaber, and that's where we lie today.
Yeah.
Got a lot more to do, a lot more to come, and we'll do it at our super snail's pace.
Yeah, and we might do it in the next 2 weeks. We might do it in the next 6 weeks.
You never know.
But we do have 2 episodes left, The Spies and The Return.
That's right. So we're getting to the end. But anything more you want to talk about this episode? Are we ready to move on?
I think we're ready.
Okie dokie. Well, let's go ahead and get on to the ratings now. As I prefaced here a little bit, this is the lowest rated episode of the season. Currently, IMDb with just under 20,000 reviews has it at a 6.4.
Ooh. Wow.
So tanked it pretty good. So what are you giving it and why?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Hopefully that doesn't pick up too terribly. This is a difficult episode to review for me. I enjoyed it. So let's start with that. I did not hate this episode. I came into it pretty negatively.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was just because I had heard quite a few really poor reviews of it and had expectations going in that unfortunately it's hard to shake those. I did not finish this episode agreeing with the majority of those complaints, but I also see a lot of merit in the complaints. I don't think this was like a great episode. It's the weakest episode probably of the season. I'm not going to argue with that. Not substantially weaker, but just, I don't know. The acting was a bit lackluster with Jack Black. Christopher Lloyd was awesome. It was great to see him, although we didn't get to see a very three-dimensional character. It was pretty clear from the beginning what was going to happen with him. Still appreciated to see him get to continue acting.
Mm-hmm.
Always loved him growing up. Lizzo was good. I like Lizzo as a person. I like Lizzo's brand, I guess you'd say. I like how she showed enthusiasm in the episode. She clearly is a Star Wars fan. I have read some things about that. She was excited to do this. Jack Black was too, for that matter, so I won't knock him for that. Everyone tried in this episode. I don't know. It was just okay. So I'm going to give it a 7.2. I did really enjoy the Ugnaught scene, though. I like that. Yeah. That was pretty cool. That was neat. It gave Mando, like you said, some purpose in the episode. I felt like he was kind of in the back burner, and he has been for a while, so that was cool. Obviously, moving forward with Bo having the Darksaber, that's ultimately what I think both of us wanted to see happen. So, as far as setup goes, it's exciting. But, yeah, it's just an episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. The Ugnaught scene was good. I think it's a nice callback to them. I obviously like the fight choreography at the end. Whether you agree or disagree with the end conclusion of it is I think down to personal preference. But I did like how we got there. I think that was a good thing because like Mandalorian Code, you're gonna have to fight. So, I thought that was pretty well done. Yeah, I mean, Lizzo was fine. Jack Black, I mean, I've already kind of said this. I think he's a little on my nerves anymore, and I'm kind of a little over it. No offense to him, like he's not a bad guy or anything. I understand, but I do like rewarding sort of fandom with little sneaky appearances and stuff, or giving a bigger appearance. So, that to me doesn't have. I have no problem with that. But a lot of the stuff with Lizzo and Jack Black didn't feel as naturally organic as some of other things could be, and that's just me. So it kind of does drop the episode a little bit, just because I didn't really care about that much. It seemed kind of like a way to stretch out an idea without actually really fleshing it out a ton. But I think the end was fine. It was fine. It wasn't like a dumpster fire, but it wasn't like great. It could have been a lot better. So I think I think the number I had in my head was a 7.1, so just a little bit under you. I think I'm going to stick with that. And again, not terrible, but not great. And, it was a lower point for the season, as pretty much agreed with everybody, it looks like. And I will say this, the IMDb skew was actually fairly even. 12% 10s, 6.6% 9s, 12.9% 8s, 16.5% 7s, which was the largest spread. 6, 12.7%, a couple of sub 10%, 5 through 2. 1 star was 14%. So obviously you have, people just bombing and bombing and bombing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a fairly even skew there, which, I think that's fair. Bryce Dallas Howard directed this one, though.
Yeah, very, very unexpected.
Yeah. But I mean, I
except
think,
for the Bo-Katan stuff, that was expected.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think it was supposed to be a little bit of fun. Maybe fell a little flat for people. So it is what it is.
I could see her being a fan of the idea of Lizzo and Jack Black being this fun, flamboyant addition. So yeah.
Well, I think we're somewhat lucky we didn't have them do a song. Yes. I could have seen a little musical number.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could have been bad. Little Lizzo metal, goofy rock.
Yeah, he just whips out an acoustic guitar. Play the best song in the world.
Shows up. Hey, if Zach Gass shows up, I'd be happy with that part.
Anyway, so there we go. Anything else we need to talk about before we cut it off?
I think we're good.
Okie dokie. Well, folks, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to, download it and undownload it and download it again as many times as you can.
Multiple accounts.
Multiple accounts. I get those numbers pumped up. But yeah, if you'd like to interact with us, we're not crazy active on social media anymore, but we still have the Twitter and the Facebook at TC Plan Podcast. Or you can just send us a good old email to tcplanpodcast@gmail.com if there are any subjects you want us to go over, whatever. We're more than happy to do that. But we will continue our slow truck to the end of Mando and then get into other stuff. I mean, we got Bad Batch. We didn't do anything with Vision. I mean, there's a ton. There's a ton we still need to do. So we'll keep going. And yeah, I think that's about it. So y'all have a great rest of your week.
And as always, may the Force be with you.